Hi, welcome to this another YouTube channel broadcast with Dr. Kenneth Niles. And I know you've seen my shirt fluttering in the breeze, and behind me you've seen the waters and a little bit of sargassum. Yes, I am by the seashore, and I am really enjoying the breeze, the coolness. Woo. I hope I could work through this broadcast, because who knows, this breeze might just make me go to sleep. But I don't know, I'm sleepy. It's just so intoxicating. It's so refreshing. And I'm here to really, in this environment, because I think it was important for me to transition to another kind of environment. You'll see the first, the second maybe, all by the sea. I think for the entire couple months we shall be exploring new exposures and environments. And as I say that, I want us to understand that key thing about transition. Self-taught to instructional. And this week I want to continue a bit about the child. This child that is now has a new title called student. You know, you call the child son, daughter, grandchild, grandson, granddaughter, but yet the child has a new name, student. Does the word student really mean something to that child? Well, I go to school. Student, who is that? What is that? It's somebody who attends school. It's somebody who comes from their home to another environment that is established called school, and therefore I'm a student. I sometimes wonder how many of us really have encouraged our children to understand that word is very important, that word student, and it's how it works. Now, I'm taking a child from my home into this big, large, 4 times, 10 times their home. Some people may have to say, okay, it's maybe twice my size because they live in some very large houses, but the majority of our nation live in a very middle class, not underemployed parents, and so therefore we are accustomed to that small 3-bedroom house with, you know, some yard and a living room and dining room, and some people have 1 bathroom, some people have 2. But all of a sudden I'm in this big space, several bathrooms, lots of rooms, stairs, greenery. As I said last week, you have playing fields, basketball courts. Oh, wow. No kitchen, but there's a cafeteria. And I'm supposed to just fall in line with these strange children. How do I work these strange children? They're not my siblings, they're not my neighbors, they're not my friends. I didn't grow up with them. I don't know most of them. Maybe I know 1 or 2. So what are we expecting of our child? What behavior are we demanding? They've been home having what is called sibling rivalry. And we deal with that whether by speaking or flogging. But then we go out there and there is rivalry. We don't call it sibling anymore. It's classroom rivalry with student rivalry. And I don't think we have an expectation that this is going to happen. It's real. If you're going to have sibling rivalry, people who are called brother and sister living in the same house with the same mother and father, excuse me, there's going to be some rivalry with children who we don't know. And I want us to be aware of the need for us to begin to teach our children that they are going to have different personalities to deal with. They're going to have people who they never saw before or knew before. They're going to have people who they don't even like. Their smell, their look, their clothes, their hairstyles. Oh my goodness. It's so many facets and dynamics that are different. And because of all of that I've just said, there's going to be a psychological trauma that is silent. and remain silent. In some instances, and we're not going to deal with that today, but the word bullying comes in. Bullying is just not about poking or pulling a hair. No, we bully silently. We watch you, a glare, a squirm. Ooh, I don't like you. What do you have for lunch? What's that? How your hair smells so? What? Ooh, I don't want to sit out here. Miss, can I move? Your children have to go through this every day. Every day. And yet we expect them to behave as if they were home. That's why we have rivalry. That's why we have poking, because they behave that way at home. Mommy, she pulled my hair. Mommy, she take my marbles. Mommy, she take the ball. I can't find my door. Mommy, she take my hair thing. Mommy. And they cannot go to teacher and say, teacher, she did this. Teacher, she pulled the chair. Teachers are not prone to listen as it was maybe in my day. 7 decades ago. But today's child wants to have our attention because they are accustomed to having attention at home. So we expect them to behave in a manner that does not interfere with another child's right. We don't even know what the rights of children are. We haven't sat down with our children and said, United Nations established the rights of children. No, we haven't done that. But there's an expectation that each child is the same. And therefore, each child needs to identify sameness. So when you go to the school, when your child goes to the school, both of you, parents and child, have one expectation. It's a normal child that lived in my house that I don't know. You know? No, you don't. You don't nothing. Each child has a different socialization. Each child has come out of different cultures and traditions. So therefore, we are going to have trauma. Your child is traumatized from the time they go to the school. Each child. And so there's how that child behave? How should that child establish their own expectations with their own guidelines and rules that they bring from home? And now they have to add to those rules the rules of the school. So it's rules from home, rules from school, and they don't connect because the rules from home are having their own cultures and traditions. The rules from schools are not cultured by the experiences of grandparents and ancestors. No, they are cultured by policies that are governmental and political and social. And so therefore, there is a divide of how I behave at home and how I behave at school. And I have sat in principals' offices and hear parents say, that is not my child. She don't behave so. He don't do that. Of course, that's real. And it's so real. Because the person at home has different rules and regulations. The person at school is guided by something else. How do we work this? And I really, really hope that we are much more sensitive to what is happening with our children. How do we work this? Tell me, what is your expectation? What is your behavior? You want the child to come into this arena of strangeness and be what? Like how the child was at home. The child has to change because there are now new rules that are completely different from, I repeat myself. So when you hear that your child is misbehaving and doing things that you do not say, you're making me ashamed. You say, wow, I see you having difficulty, what? Reconciling or identifying with the newness of the school. But you don't bully the child. So, oh, did I say that? Oh my gosh, I did say that. Yes, I did. Parents, you bully the child. You make him ashamed. You don't know how to behave. I didn't teach you that. You didn't teach your child that what? You didn't know what the school policy is yourself, parents. You don't know. I did not know. I went to the orientation. You hear about rules, but all you glad is your child goes to secondary school, free education. Mister, learn your work. But we didn't sit down to analyze school rules and compare that to house rules and see the kind of stress our children, well, your present children are suffering trying to bring a balance to behavior. Mommy says this, but the school says that. I have to wear shoes. At home I don't wear shoes. I have to put on a uniform and at home I don't have to wear a uniform. I have to sit in the classroom and keep still. At home I run around. When I want to, I say when mommy say, hey, sit down, don't run. But in this school, it's all different. And I have to now work this thing daily, not when I want to, but Monday to Friday. I have to get up at a particular time. Now I just sleep. I get up when I want to, but now I have to get up at time because I have to reach the school because that school has a rule that says you must come at a particular time. If you don't come there. If you come after, you're late. And then I'm punished for being late. Wow! That's new. I didn't know that you punish people for being late. Mommy never punished me to come to eat late or getting up late. I was not punished for that, but now I am. And I'm supposed to learn how to relate to teachers and principals and the school guards and ancillary staff. Hey, help! Will somebody help me? Our children needs to appreciate transition from home to school. Kindergartens too. Child is terrorized by strangeness at 3 years. The child is further terrorized at strangeness at 5 years. Bigger children, more noise, larger spaces. When the child gets to secondary school, the child is again traumatized. Yes, but the child should be accustomed. It's new rules, it's new faces, it's new behaviors, and now much more grown-up behaviors. May I use that word? Much more developed behaviors, much more. I'm laughing at myself. Much more teenage behaviors, you know, the kind of behavior that once I established identity of self. Don't tread on that, you know. If you mash my white sneakers, I'll mash yours back. Did I train you to do that? No, I didn't train you to do that. But you see, that is reality coming out of primary school, where there was that kind of learning of tit for tat. I did, you did, you mash, I mash, you hit, I hit. So there is this encouragement. There is this encouragement of antagonism, this encouragement of conflict, because I did, you did, because of you didn't, you did. How are we working this thing together? How am I coming into that perspective, understanding that there is a difference? My children went to school, how many decades? 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades ago. Let's use 3. 30 years ago. Into primary school, into secondary school. And they came home doing things that I did not teach them to do. The first thing they came home and was real to me was the cussing. Do remember that I'm not just an educator or lecturer, I'm also a pastor. So you know when they come home, when they start with the expletives, woo! But they were in primary school, they were exposed to language, they were exposed to behaviors, and they had to compete with that. And they had to find a way to overcome that. And therefore, they had to learn it. To be overcome it, they had to find a way of saying, if you cuss me, I cuss you back. So when they come home and they have that same energy of anxiety or misappropriation of something in the house with their siblings, they can't sit there saying, hey, mommy, they're now taking their authority within themselves to retaliate. They had other strategies of how they eat, what they did, how they wore off clothes, because people were doing things differently. They were finding friends that we would not maybe have encouraged in the past, but now they have their friends. They are with them more than they're with us. We let them go at 7 o'clock. Let's use 7 o'clock a.m. in the morning. They come back home by 4 or 5 if they have to travel. We're not home yet. That's 10 hours. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 hours. 10 hours. By the time we get home, that's 12 hours. By the time we get home, it's 6. They have dinner. They have time for us. They go to do the homework. They get their bed early. So your children are now spending more time with strangers, with a new whole community of people, a whole new language, behaviors, thought patterns. They are spending more time with them. And don't forget, for some of your children who are not dropped to school or picked up, they're having public transport, or they're on the bus, or on the guy who comes to transport you, and hearing languages, hearing music. Excuse me, all I'm here to do today is to help you to understand how to treat the transition and your children in new environments, especially in this month, where children in some countries and for the next couple of months, between now and May, children are going to be doing examinations to transfer from primary school to secondary school. Have we sat down and learned the secondary school that our child is good? Or we just say, you know, the child goes to that school. Why? Because they have high CXC results. You don't need to talk about results of examinations. You need to find out results for behavior patterns, thought patterns. We need to come into the issue of cognition. What is my child going to be thinking after this? And as a parent, it is therefore our responsibility to make sure that the student is not just dressed properly, not just on time, but your child who is now has this new title called student is able to identify the strangeness and the behavior of their tomorrow. What is your child going to meet? Who is your child going to meet? You don't know. You haven't gone to the staff room. You don't know the teachers. You expect the teachers to have a particular demeanor. We don't know. They're all teachers because they're qualified. They got their jobs through their degrees and their accolades, but they did not get the job because they behave or think in your particular way. These teachers have their own calamities. Some of them are single, having problems with marriages, parents, money problems. They come and they take out those emotions which are real for behaviors on your children. So you do not know what mess you put your children in. Or it might be the best school, the top schools, you know, they have all the accolades of higher education. But the staff room may be a whole different situation. The classroom is a whole different situation. So parents, please, between now and July, between now and August, go find out who your child is going to be living with. 7 to 5 hours, 5 to 7 hours a day, multiplied by 5, which is so much more than they do with you. You are now the minority caregiver. the teacher, the principals, the school environment becomes the majority caregiver. You need to learn how to interpret the school rules, interpret the policies, interpret what's happening. You need to know that. Are you really interested in that? No, you want the child to go to the best school. My child passed for the first choice, you know. That first choice may be the worst choice that you may have in your future. Let's see, parents, if we can do better. Let's see, parents, if we can understand what discipline means and teach your child how to recalibrate directives, recalibrate what daddy and mommy will say as against what teacher and principals are saying. We have to understand what school communities represent and how are we correcting these communities in certain kinds of behaviors. We have to learn how to work out what is going to be the kind of lifestyle my child has that I am not teaching but somebody else is teaching. Let me tell you something. When a child starts to do these subjects, geography, history, nutrition, maths, English, their thinkings are different. When they come home to you, it's not the child you had before. As a matter of fact, each day is a whole different child coming home. Because once they are impacted by knowledge or by hearing, there's going to be a reaction psychologically in behavior. Are we ready for that? So, I want to let you know you don't have naughty children. You don't have bad children. You have children who need to sit down with you and talk because they are traumatized by that word transition, which they don't even know about. They're traumatized by the newness of education. They learn maths. I didn't learn that before. This is new, N-E-W. They learn about geography, the clouds, cumulus. What's cumulus? It's a big word. Cirrus. Oh, Pythagoras. Oh, what is pi? Macaroni pie? Oh my gosh. We have to sit down and bring the children into that reality of what they are now with. And that responsibility is ours. We are to learn how to teach them to handle bad language, indifferent behaviors coming at your children. Your children didn't go to be ridiculed. They didn't go to school to be abused, but the abuse comes. How do you teach them to overcome abuse? Not to react to it so that we do not compound violence. These are real issues that need to be addressed by you parents with your children to establish that kind of balance, that kind of serenity and control that we are looking for in our educational institutions. We can't blame the child next door whose parents don't even know what is a parent, or whose parents work in shift systems and are not home to govern and rule. We don't know. We cannot think out how our children would be responding to adults who have different orientations to the adults they know at home. Right? She don't behave like my mother. My mother tell me this. Oh, we always have children agonized by differences of how daddy and mom behave, and the teacher. And then sometimes they want the teacher because they are glad that teacher behaves in a way that mommy and daddy don't behave. Oh my gosh! We're going to have a little more of this conversation as we go along. But I want to pause here until the next broadcast and let us really, really come to terms with how we are working with our children. I want you to know that you need to get the Education Act. We need to get Child Offences Act. You need to meet all these things that you would know that is expected of your child and expected in that environment. At home, you don't have nothing written. You talk, but they have written. So when the child misbehaves or contradicts a particular rule, They bring out a piece of paper. The child access it, the school act. You didn't know nothing about that? What are you talking about? That's a budget. Yes, you didn't read it. So let's educate ourselves. Let's be more aware of what's happening with your children in this time called transition from self-instruction to what? Public instruction, educational instruction that comes from the outside of your house that you have no idea what to expect. But you do have an expectation that the child will be bright and do well next 5 years, or 7 years, whether it's primary school or secondary school. But alas, the child is not disappointing. The child is just indifferent. So we need to bring education to that child. Dr. Nair said, have a good evening. And continue to smile. And remember, you have a good child. Train the child the differences, that the child will be balanced, understand who or she is. He or she is. Au revoir.